Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rahul Shivshankar on India Upfront, and we will today once again take our investigation on the Mallya UPA nexus forward. The idea being here to establish the linkages which many people seem to suggest are the linkages which connect many officials of the UPA, some even in the then Prime Minister's office, Dr. Manmohan Singh's office, to Vijay Mallya and his associates. Vijay Mallya, who was, of course, seeking favors, perhaps even a bailout from the then UPA government, seeking their desperate intervention to get the banks to do his bidding for him. Today, we speak to a deep source in the UPA government, an individual who was in the know. We speak to him on the condition of anonymity because this deep source has said in no uncertain terms that his identity must not be revealed. He tells us some very startling details on how the wheels were turning within government at different levels, not just at the Prime Minister's office level, the then Prime Minister's office's level, or even the Finance Ministry level, but at other levels, in different quarters. Individuals who were working to ensure that Vijay Mallya's requests were met and that his financial problems were eased along the way. Here for the first time, listen to this account. This will constitute yet another layer to Times Now's investigations. Remember, on Republic Day, we told you that certain emails and certain letters were under the CBI scanner. We put those letters out in public domain, correspondences between Mr. Vijay Mallya and the Prime Minister's office at that time, letters that were written to the Prime Minister directly, Dr. Manmohan Singh, by Vijay Mallya, seeking exemptions, favors, all sorts of concessions so that he could stay afloat. He was also seeking some amount of help in getting the State Bank of India, which was taking a very skeptical view of his business practices, into intervening so that the State Bank of India and the top bosses there would in fact intercede on his behalf. A large number of concessions were sought. Hard facts I will come to in just 30 seconds, but first listen to this account from the deep source, a person in the know. Listen to this account, you will be astonished.
I'm looking for Vijay Mallya, not the man himself, but a man in government, a man who was in the thick of things, a man who knows how is it that Vijay Mallya got the money that he did, how is it that all the government banks lined up to pay him large amounts of money when he already owed the government thousands of crores. Now I'm meeting a man who is in the middle of all this, who knows all the answers. And he will tell me who was it who supported Vijay Mallya and who actually helped him.
Email to the Prime Minister came in the wake of the loans being cleared. A particular banking official was looking for an extension. He may have been blind to political requests. There would have been no official communication exchange between UPA government interministerial departments on Mallya's several requests. Information would have in all likelihood exchanged hands via telephone calls. Probability of face-to-face meetings at official level would also have been low. I am aware of the role of at least one very senior aide of a political personality who had held a constitutional post in helping Mallya get favors.
We finally have some of the answers. That email by Vijay Mallya was actually the final act of the whole thing. A lot of things happened before that. Senior government officials were involved. Top government officials spoke to each other. They did not issue orders. There was nothing in writing. But they spoke with each other and ensured that at the end of the day, Vijay Mallya could go to a bank, a PSU, and despite all his loans, he would get yet another loan. Srinjoy Chaudhary, Delhi, Times.
That is the level of Vijay Mallya's access to government. He was, of course, a member of parliament and therefore had access because he could leverage his powerful personage with the UPA. But it's unprecedented because there is also, of course, a conflict of interest, because Vijay Mallya was also on a critical parliamentary panel which related to the civil aviation sector. He was the owner of a flourishing but tanking Kingfisher Airlines, flourishing in public perception, but tanking in boardroom perception. When they did the hard maths, it was hollowed out by the termite of perhaps mismanagement or perhaps even extravagance. But the fact is that he could summon himself, his powers, and write to the big principles in the UPA government. Navika Kumar, our executive editor, had earlier broken a story today which suggested that on March 21st, 2013, Vijay Mallya wrote to Shri P. Chidambaram, who was then the finance minister, seeking for various concessions and demanding that he intercede on his behalf to get a very recalcitrant State Bank of India to do his bidding. Here is that report. Now, an exclusive story as part of our ongoing investigations to determine whether Vijay Mallya was shown any special favors by the last dispensation, the UPA. What we're about to tell you today is going to shock you, because it proves that he had unprecedented access not just to the former Prime Minister's office as well as the person of the Prime Minister, but he was also pressuring the then Finance Minister.
An exclusive Times Now news break exposing letters written by Vijay Mallya trying to curry favors and threatening the former Prime Minister and the Finance Minister with FDI, putting the focus firmly on the erstwhile UPA government's top duo.
Look at the impunity with which Vijay Mallya writes these letters. Look at these three letters. One, on October 4th, 2011, written to Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. That's the first letter. The second letter, November 22nd, 2011, again written to Dr. Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister. And then March 21st, 2013, letter written to the then Finance Minister P. Chidambaram.
Mr. Chidambaram was submitted a letter by Vijay Mallya on 21st of March. Mr. Chidambaram calls up the bank, rebukes the concerned person, and what is the result? The Bangalore branch was ready, after receiving the rebuke from the finance minister of the country, to see to it that they issue NOC for preferential allotment.
As the Times Now news break became a talking point, the Congress quick to rubbish the charge and limit the damage.
With the full satisfaction of mine that we were not doing anything which was against the laws of the land. In any government, receive representations from various captains of industry, which we, in the normal course of things, we pass it on to appropriate authorities.
There is absolutely nothing wrong if somebody says we want some policy changes, we want some forbearance. If a letter to the Prime Minister's office is marked down to the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, and the Principal Secretary forwards it to the department concerned, I mean, this is normal. Please ask the present government whether they've received any representations at all in the last 3 years.
What emerged very clearly was the fact that Vijay Mallya used his position as a member of parliament to good effect.
Now we have found out that a lot of this money, this is what the CBI says, has been siphoned off. But then you were invoking the highest officers in the land to seek the disbursement of this loan.
Yeah, I have no comment. I anyway object to your use of the word saying you as in me. If at all it is Mallya he was always in Central Hall of Parliament. He could access whoever he wanted to, whenever he wanted to.
The letters accessed by Times Now shows Mallya asking the then Finance Minister Chidambaram to push SBI, as Mallya was unable to get meetings with the bankers.
Who permitted Vijay Mallya to escape? who waived 1200 crore rupees of money of Vijay Mallya, who permitted Mr. Vijay Mallya to become a member of parliament in 2010. Did the BJP not vote for him and bring him to Rajya Sabha?
They have attempted to deflect from the issue which is bothering Congress party, in which they are in a deep troublesome spot.
So, were the top functionaries in the UPA government facilitating the loot of banks via Mallya? Why were government officials asked to intervene? Many questions that need answers, and not just tweets from a willful defaulter sitting in London. Bureau Report, Times Now.
Navika Kumar joins me. Does this reek, Navika, of cronyism, or are we overemphasizing the point here on Times Now?
Well, it's very clear, Rahul, that whichever way you look at it, Vijay Mallya had used his position as a member of parliament to his advantage. He was not only on the Consultative Committee of Civil Aviation, where he was invited by the then Civil Aviation Minister for every single meeting, and he could ask any question of the civil aviation industry of which he was a part himself, especially a beleaguered part of that civil aviation industry. And then look at the access he has to various people. He writes letters with impunity. One letter on March 21st, 2013 to Shri P. Chidambaram, Honorable Finance Minister of that time. Then there are letters written on October 4th to 2011 to the Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh at that time. He also writes letters on November 22nd, 2011 to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And look at the way the wheels actually function. In this letter, it's by Mallya's own admission. He says, you asked me to follow up with Mr. T.K. Nair. Mr. T.K. Nair at that time Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, which I did, and I am deeply appreciative of the fact that Mr. Nair immediately spoke to the concerned people in the ministries involved. Now, if you and I don't fulfill our criteria for loans, the banks just come and grab our assets and go away. No questions asked. And in this case, it was the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister who was ringing up various ministries and virtually working the way for Dr. Mallya. After Dr. Mallya meets Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, writes letters to him. So that's, the way he functioned. And one more letter that we should bring to our viewers, Rahul, at this point is this letter. This letter written to Pradeep Chaudhary, Chairman of State Bank of India, Mumbai, on the 20th of March 2013. He says, I'm both shocked and deeply disappointed to receive notices from SBI Cap Trustee Company on March 18 stating that they had received instructions from the State Bank of India to sell shares of United Spirits and Mangalore Chemicals and Fertilizers Limited and Kingfisher Airlines. So when the banks wanted to sell his shares in various companies, he actually objected to that in a letter to the then chairman of the SBI, and he uses his clout with the finance minister at that time to ask the finance minister to get him an appointment with the chairman of the SBI chief.
Absolutely. I think there is no doubt that he was able to leverage his status as a member of parliament and also, of course, an influential member of that panel that you referred to, Navika. Thanks very much. This is what Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had to say, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had to say to Times Now when we asked him direct question on his association with Mallya and whether he actually tried to intercede on his behalf, which he did seem to indicate he was doing.
All prime ministers and other ministers in any government receive representations from various captains of industry, which we, in the normal course of things, we pass it on to appropriate authorities. I think what I have done was done with the full satisfaction of mine that we were not doing anything which was against the laws of the land. It was a normal routine transaction, and therefore it's the letter that is being talked about is nothing else but an ordinary piece of a letter which any government in my position would have dealt with.
I'll tell our viewers, I'll tell you what, viewers, the next time you are about to default on a loan, why don't you just write to the Prime Minister? Because in the normal routine, he'll perhaps intercede on your behalf with the banks. That's what he'll do. Because that's what Dr. Manmohan Singh seems to suggest. It was business as usual. It's a normal routine. People write to me. Yes, I take interest. I even tell my secretaries in my office to intercede on this person's behalf, get him loans, get him other help. Is this an acceptable defense? Can we here delineate between the Prime Minister's office and perhaps the charge that is being made that the Prime Minister was bailing out an individual who is today wanted by Indian law to answer questions about whether he actually scammed the banks and looted the public to line his own pockets and continue his own business? Let's throw that question out. Joining me this evening is Dr. Sambit Patra, National Spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Mahesh Jethmalani, a senior lawyer. Also with us, Sanjay Bahadur Singh, former Kingfisher employee. Arun Kumar Singh, former Executive Assistant of Kingfisher, is also with us. Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, and we'll be joined by KTS Tulsi, former Additional Solicitor General of India. This is going to be a balanced debate by the look of our panel. I just want to first begin with Dr. Sambit Patra. Dr. Patra, the charge that you have made has been countered by the Congress party, saying that don't accuse us of showing favors to Mr. Mallya when you yourself allowed Mr. Mallya to walk out of this country and today evade the long arm of Indian law. How do you respond to that question, sir?
Rahul, I'll definitely respond to the specific question that you have made, but the counter by the Congress, in fact, counter by Mr. Manmohan Singh, well, he is a respected personality, but a question has been thrown to him, and the counter by him was, this is just a routine letter, and a routine letter which was forwarded to my principal secretary. But I believe this is not to be bought. The counter is not saleable. Why is the counter not saleable? It is because of the following fact. In the first letter that was pointed out by you, which was written on 4th of October 2011 by Vijay Mallya to the then Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh, we should first see the paragraph which precedes the paragraph in which Vijay Mallya says that he is happy that Manmohan Singh is helping. The paragraph which precedes read out, and I quote, I had also informed your good self that we had approached our consortium of banks led by State Bank of India to grant us additional financial support urgently. So naturally he's talking about a grant of loan, and that too which he needs urgently. And thereafter he goes ahead to explain that I'm extremely relieved and pleased that on this you have referred the matter to TK Nayarji, your principal secretary, and Mr. Nayar followed it up with the respective secretaries and respective ministries. So naturally we have a pertinent question. We have a specific agenda in this letter, and the specific agenda is not just policy, is not just discussing his problem, it is getting the loan sanctioned in which the Prime Minister has helped Mr. Mallya. This is as clear as daylight. So I believe an eminent person like Mr. Manmohan Singh, our former Prime Minister, cannot evade by saying that this is just a routine letter. And you remember, in the second letter also, Mr. Mallya comes ahead to say that something has to be done immediately within 2 days. The second letter is written on November 22nd, 2013. And in the second letter, 2011, I'm sorry. Right. And in this second letter also, Mr. Mallya says that something has to be done within 2 days because a huge amount of money is required, or else we would be declared an NPA. In this case also, he mentions that in previous occasions you have helped us. In this occasion also you help us. Remember, between these two letters, while Mr. Manmohan Singh was returning from Maldives, While he was interacting with the reporters, Mr. Manmohan Singh had categorically mentioned, and Times Now had been airing it since morning, that we should do something to help the Kingfisher Airlines. And in that follow-up, remember, a bailout package was in fact stitched up by Valvar Ravi, the then aviation minister, and the defreezing of the account the company was done. The IT department previously had frozen the account. So it's not just a routine letter which was thrown into the dustbin. The letter was followed up, and doles were given out to Mr. Vijay Mallya. The question is, how many such people can approach the Prime Minister and get these doles?
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to write a letter also to our Prime Minister, because I fear that I may not be able to pay my home loan off. And hopefully the Prime Minister will intercede on my behalf with the banks and secure me some sort of a concession, if not perhaps a line of credit over what I already owe the banks. I just want to bring you in, Sanjay Hegde, on this. Why doesn't this reek of a certain cronyism? And are we supposed to now, all of us, as individual citizens, look upon the government as a benefactor? Because this is so routine, isn't it? Everyone can just write a letter, Sanjay Hegde, and they haven't even, the UPA hasn't even come out and said that, look, we never helped. Yes, we did, they say.
Are you telling me that no letters are being written today? Are you telling me that, for instance, the $1 billion loan which SBI is advancing to the Adanis for Australia,
I don't
for
know,
the Australian mine project?
Let's not muddy waters when we don't. No, you can't speak in. No, let's.
I'm just asking you.
I don't know, sir. I don't know.
I'm asking.
But if it were the case, we would expose it, and we will work on it.
Tell me that no such letters are being written currently.
Mr. Hegde,
no.
It's not about the letters being written. It's about the action on the letters.
No such letters are being written.
No, it might be so, but they might be ending up in a trash can.
Specific questions.
Mr. Hegde, it might be written. There might be hundreds of letters in the inbox of various authorities. But what do we do with those letters? Here there seems to be hang on. This is a very important point.
So are you telling me?
I buy what you're saying. They are letters. There are desperate people. They will write.
Bank of India did not travel with the Prime Minister when there were negotiations on the Australian coal mine. Are you telling me
that might be so, but hang on, just a minute, Mr. Hegde. I asked you a question.
And that it does not look after the commercial interests of.
So I asked you the question. Do you think this should be encouraged? Number one, what does it suggest?
They do not come to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Hegde,
let's.
No, Mr. Hegde, 1 second, please. Please bear me out. Please.
Don't indulge.
Please bear me out.
With half
please
facts.
Bear me out. This is not a media trial. Hang on, just a minute. Please bear me out. Please. Let me allow. You asked me several questions.
Of course,
even
it
if
is.
this.
Otherwise,
1 second.
Have a genuine
Mr.
trial
Hegde,
if you think there is criminality.
Mr. Hegde, even if there were the types of actions that you're talking about, even if they are continuing in government, it is not about that. It's about the response of the authorities. What is the response here? The response is that the Prime Minister at that time asked his principal secretary of that day. No, 1 second, to intercede. No, 1 second.
Of the day.
Okay, Mr. Hegde, look, I don't want to speak over you because that's not the style of the show. We are very upfront. And I'm saying that even if that were the case, doesn't that reek of cronyism? That's the question I'm asking you, Mr. Hegde. Doesn't that reek of cronyism, whether it's happening today or it happened day before or it happened 3 years ago?
Let's forget India. 2008, Barack Obama just came into power. Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac, two big corporations, too big to fail. There were huge bailouts, both to Freddie Mae, Fannie Mac, to the auto industry. All that I'm telling you is that governments the world over look after their industrialists. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad. I am also saying that there is potential for misuse, potential for cronyism, and
now there you go.
For criminal action.
Now that's the question I asked you. That's the question I asked you. That's the question I asked you. So you do acknowledge that it does. Okay, 1 second. So you do acknowledge that at some moral level, this does reek of a certain type of cronyism. So let me bring in Mr. Jethmalani, since you're the one who's raised the legal points. Mr. Jethmalani, would you like to respond to Mr. Sanjay Hegde? If there is cronyism, if he acknowledges that this sort of interaction should not be dismissed as a routine affair, if it smacks of cronyism, then isn't it criminal?
Of course it's criminal, Rahul. I mean, look, Dr. Manmohan Singh and of course Sanjay Hegde are both being disingenuous. Of course, all industrialists in trouble are going to try and do their best. They're going to lobby with government, and they're going to lobby at the highest levels of government, including the finance minister and the prime minister, to try and reschedule their loans, to try and get some relief. That is routine, and in that sense, both Mr. Hegde and Dr. Manmohan Singh are only stating well-known facts. I mean, this does happen. The fact is, what is your response? Now, if you look at the most damaging of the letters which are in the public domain, thanks to Times Now, the letter of 2013, Mr. Mallya writes to Nedungadi, the head of Kingfisher, that listen, we have managed to get access to Mr. Chidambaram, right? And Mr. Chidambaram has rebuked somebody called PAM of SBI. I don't know who the PAM is, right? But he has rebuked him, and we can expect results. And sure enough, results followed later on in the matter of that preferential allotment business. Now, it's okay you receive a representation, but how do you deal with it? If you stretch every sinew of yours, if you misuse and abuse your office as Prime Minister or Finance Minister to get undue favors which are going to ruin banks and the country, then you are in the realm of criminal offences, and that's what has happened. Now look, there's too much smoke happening here without there being fire. Mr. Tyagi says, just to divert a little bit, in Augusta that he received orders from the PMO to order those helicopters. Mr. Raja says in 2G that everything he did was with the concurrence and knowledge of the FM at that time, Chidambaram, and Dr. Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister. That his whole changing of that schedule, the cut-off date in the 2G matter was with their knowledge. In the Coles camp, the then PM, Dr. Manmohan Singh again, actually stands indicted. There is too much smoke without fire. The whole UPA government, and I'm sorry to say, especially the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, did indulge in rampant acts of crony capitalism. Now, Sanjay Hegde may think that this is an everyday affair and happens in all countries, but this is India. Let's concentrate here. It should not be happening. And please,
in another context,
Sanjay Hegde, don't paint everybody with the same brush. You do not have evidence that this government has acted on letters the way the Prime Minister then did.
Mahesh, why don't you prosecute him? It's your government.
Of course they will. This is the beginning. This is evidence in the public realm. It will happen. Yes. Look, it's your government.
Who are you fooling?
Once it's elected, it's all our government.
Who are you fooling? You don't have the prime accused.
BJP government,
You let the prime accused away.
Does it mean Sanjay Hegde that
you let the prime accused out of the country? Then what are you waving around little pieces of paper?
Every effort is being made for the prime accused to come back, and we are talking now about helping somebody financially and criminally. We're not talking about subsequent action.
I'm not understanding the point that you're making, Mr. Hegde. You're saying that, okay, there is an element of cronyism here, but we shouldn't be too perturbed about it because it's a sort of global phenomena. Then you're saying that, okay, if there is an element of cronyism, action should be taken. Then you seem to change the goalpost and say, well, then you see the NDA should then come to the party and take action, but they let this gentleman go. Fair enough. All of these things have happened, and I'm going to be asking Dr. Patra, and I began with that question, and he has also not answered it. But I'm just asking you, Mr. Hegde, one second.
Action. If you can take
now you
action,
can't suddenly. I am first asking you a simple and straightforward question.
Take criminal action. Don't give pieces of paper on media.
No, so what you're saying is, that you accept that there is a degree of an approximation or a proximity that should not have actually taken place, that there should have been a wall between this gentleman and the government. Would you concede that point, first of all?
I accept nothing. I say that there is criminal and non-criminal.
So how is this non-criminal?
Either it is criminal. If it's criminal, then file a case. If it is not criminal,
is it criminal? So I'm asking you, is it criminal, Mr. Hegde? In your opinion, I'm waving these papers in your face to basically acquaint you with the facts which are now quite well known, because we've been running this story for 5 days now. So I'm asking you, sir, in your professional assessment as a noted senior lawyer,
paper, it is not criminal. You must remember You must remember that the Supreme Court said very recently that mere diary entries do not amount
These are not
to
diary
proof.
entries.
And that was in the Prime Minister's
These are substantially.
case.
Are these
now,
diary
if that
entries?
is the standard of proof. No,
Dr.
if that is
Patra,
the standard of proof.
These
then,
are not diary entries, sir.
No.
These are letters. And listen to what the Prime Minister says.
Is not. A mere piece
second.
of paper by itself will not be.
No, okay, 1 second. These are not standalone pieces of
Make
paper,
out a
sir.
case.
These are not some handwritten notes.
There has to be
Yes, Dr. Patra, would you like to come in? Then I'll pose my question.
First, with all due respect to Sanjay ji, it appears that Sanjay Hegde ji is more disturbed tonight rather than Mr. Manmohan Singh. Mr. Manmohan Singh did not deny the existence of these letters. So why is Sanjay Hegde denying these letters? Mr. Manmohan Singh, when asked about these letters, categorically
no fake sympathy for me, please.
So today, Sir, let's not fight like this. I was silent when you were speaking. It's my turn now. Thank you. So the Prime Minister did not deny.
Don't condescend to me. That's all.
Did not deny the existence of this letter. Sanjay, can you? Thank you. The only issue is Mr. Manmohan Singh did not deny the existence of this letter. He said that these are routine letters. What we are debating tonight is these are not routine letters. It is beyond routine letter.
Yes.
What is a routine letter in this case? A routine letter in this case would have been if any businessman or if any common man would have been in fact embroiled by red tapeism, his loan would have been in problem, and then he would have written to concerned ministries saying that, well, look, I fulfill all my criteria, but despite that I am becoming I'm disturbed by red tapeism. Help me out. Then the Prime Minister helps this victim of red tapeism by writing letters to bureaucrat, would have behoved of the post of Prime Minister. But over here, a man who was a defaulter, a man who in fact was recognized by various banks as a defaulter, the banks did not want to loan him. The banks did not want even to meet him, because in the third letter to Chidambaram,
this is what he says. Thank you for sparing time to meet me on September 8th. This is not some postal service. Hang on.
Meet me also.
Dr. Patra, look at this. Thank you for sparing time to meet me on September 8th. So this is not some, courier that was sent to the Prime Minister's office and that some lowly bureaucrat looked at it and then said, okay, this is routine, let's put it into routine file. No, there was a meeting here. The meeting was on the 8th of September 2011. The letter I'm quoting
something
out
very
of...
important. I'll just take 10 more seconds to complete my point, Rahul, and it's very important.
1 second. But Dr. Patra, that you can complete
just
your
10
point.
Seconds, Rahul,
there is no, I have nothing against that. But you also need to tell the viewers why Mr. Mallya is sitting under your watch in London and how he was allowed to sort of walk out.
I will surely come to that point, but I'll use this 10 second. I'll just use this 10 second to mention the difference of dates between the last two letters, one between the correspondence between Vijay Mallya to Chidambaram, which was on 21st March 2013, where he complains to Chidambaram saying that, look, you have to do something because the preferential shares have to be given to us. SBI is not giving us the NOC, and the SBI officials are not even meeting us. They're not meeting Vijay Mallya. And the second letter, which is not a letter, which is an email, which is addressed to Ravi, as rightly pointed out by Mahesh Jetmalani, which is the very next day, that is 22nd March 2013, 4:44 p.m. to be precise, where he says, look, work has been done, Ravi. After receiving rebuke from top boss, that is the finance minister, now the SBI has kneeled down on its knees. They have agreed to give us the NOC. Go ahead. Probably your meeting also would be arranged.
Money,
that was
public money.
The work was done.
So public
this is
money.
No routine work. This is no
our
routine
money.
letter. This was lightning.
So the public money, our money, is tweezed out of the State Bank of India. Tweezed out, literally under pressure of very powerful individuals in government to oblige Mr. Mallya. Why? Who alone knows why? Was it out of a sense of benefaction? Was it out of a sense of concern? No answers. What we are being told is routine. So I'm sure governments routinely arm twist state banks of this country, etc., public sector banks to hypothecate our money to businessmen. If that is really what is happening, it's very serious. It's a very serious comment on the state of our of our procedures and processes. And KTS Tulsi, before I bring in the Kingfisher employees, the former employee as well as the former executive assistant at Kingfisher, I want to come across to you, Mr. Tulsi, former Additional Solicitor General. Does this not reek of a certain cronyism which is highly objectionable and not routine, sir, but quite extraordinary?
I don't see anything extraordinary in this.
Really?
This is purely routine. The business tycoons meeting the Prime Minister, those who are the captains of industry, is routine. And their giving petitions is routine. Those petitions being sent to the Secretary for examining them and then taking whatever, forwarding them to persons concerned for examination is routine. This is, we
so
are
routine.
Jumping to conclusion, and
so
some
it's
people
routine
are
to be
taking a
so
long
cavalier
jump
with
in reading more than
with public money. Perhaps you're right, sir. Perhaps that was the culture. That is the culture that exists in this country that is keeping the poor poor and the rich very rich. Perhaps that, you know, I'm sure, sir, I mean, in a warped sort of way, Mr. Tulsi, you've only emphasized the point we're trying to make. Mr. Jethmalani, it's all routine, you see. It's all routine. There's no criminality here.
No, you are reading. What is criminality in this?
The corruption was routine during the UPA days, by the way.
Criminality in forwarding the letter.
No,
and
sir. It is intervening on behalf. I'm not saying. No, 1 second, sir. No, hang on. Look, there is a crime of omission, there's a crime of commission. I'm not getting into all of that. But it does worry me, sir, that certain individuals have the power to arm twist public sector banks, etc., especially when their own credentials are very weak, into doing things which are against the public interest. That worries me. I don't know if I'm not a lawyer, I don't know if it constitutes a criminal offense, but certainly there's an element of moral deprivation here, Mr. Jethmalani. Am I wrong to assume that?
I can tell you.
Let me bring in Mr. Jethmalani. Let's have the two lawyers clash.
One criminal act. There is one criminal act.
If
that criminal act is
No,
can I just complete?
No, let Mr. Tulsi finish.
Criminal act as to who ordered the withdrawal of lookout notice. Who ordered the withdrawal?
Sir, are you being partisan?
Was that not conspiracy?
Are you being partisan?
No.
That's a question that follows. But let's establish the first question and the first omission, so to speak. Let's at least find out if at the initial stages there was a nexus. Okay, so 1 second. I'm coming to that. I'm not going to shy away from that question. I'm not going to let Dr. Patra get away by not answering it. 1 second. Let me first... you can't say that crimes are relative also.
No, I'm ready right away. Now the time has come and I can answer this question.
Okay, 1 second. You can answer it. Give me 30 seconds. Let me bring in first Mr. Jethmalani on the legal point. Mr. Jethmalani, response, sir.
Well, Rahul, I said it before and I'm restating it, that of course it is routine, and the more powerful you are, the more access you have to lobby with government to reschedule your debts. Nothing wrong with that. If your business has gone sour and you are facing huge debt, you try and reschedule it, and you think maybe you have a bona fide belief that if you can buy time, your business will improve, your business model will work itself out. But the fact of the matter is, it does not behoove a Prime Minister who receives such a representation, or a Finance Minister in this case, to rebuke somebody and tell him to do it. That gentleman had already made an assessment, the SBI had made an assessment that they would not do it. They turned their face against Mr. Mallya's request, right? Mr. Mallya then went over their heads to a political entity. That political entity then overruled the bank officer who following prudential norms, decided that the action requested for by Mr. Mallya ought not in the normal course to be granted. He was overruled and rebuked. That is criminal. The Finance Minister had no business to do it. He substituted his judgment and without any good reason. Of course it is criminal. The Finance Minister is the keeper of the nation's finances. He is not a donor of it to undeserving industrialists. But that is Mr. Tulsi's view. And Mr. Hegde.
Mr. Tulsi, he's constructed a narrative as well as an argument.
How is it criminal, Mahesh? How is it criminal?
How is it criminal? If you use your influence to compel a public servant to do something, it is section 30. It is section 1 minute. Sanjay, section 13,
Tell
section
me
13,
which section
section
of
9.
the IPC, Prevention of Corruption Act, what one would you apply? What would you prosecute?
I am telling you, if you are not so fond of repeating your question and hearing your own voice, I will answer it. You have asked the question, I have heard it, Sanjay Hegde. I will answer you. 7, 9 and 13 of the Prevention of Corruption Act. Now go and read it.
You'll fail.
Okay.
You
No,
will
Mr.
fail.
Mr. Hegde, that is a different matter. Whether you will fail, whether you can prove your case or not is a different matter. Nonetheless, since we are talking about a letter that was written to chairman of the SBI, gentlemen, one second, gentlemen, let me come in. There's some big breaking news coming in. I need to break this story. There is breaking news in the context of the Mallya investigation that Times Now has undertaken. Pradeep Chaudhary, chairman of the State Bank of India, we caught up with him. Let's listen in to what he had to tell us. He says that he is only going to be answering questions to the courts. He's tight-lipped. He's the gentleman that Vijay Mallya was complaining about to P. Chidambaram and others in the State Bank of India, especially a gentleman called P.A. Murli, Dr. Mr. Shyamlal Acharya, the Deputy Managing Director of Mid-Corporate Group of SBI, who was being a bit obstinate, in the words of Mr. Vijay Mallya, not playing ball with Mr. Vijay Mallya. His boss was a gentleman called Shri Pradeep Chaudhary, Chairman, State Bank of India. Let's listen in, because many people are saying that the State Bank of India chairman was a bit pliable. Let's listen in to what he had to tell us.
Am I speaking with Mr. Pradeep Chaudhary?
You are.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Navika Kumar. I'm calling from Times Now.
How many people need to call me from Times Now? I am not doing any show, but...
No, don't do a show, sir, but I just want to ask you a question. We are in possession of some letters written by Vijay Mallya to you. Could you recall any of your interactions with Vijay Mallya, or if he ever... Let's try one more time. Sir, I was trying to complete a question to you, sir.
Oh, no, I am not interested in doing any show, any talk with Times Now. That's it.
Sir, this is not about a show. This is about a letter written to you by Vijay Mallya, sir.
Okay. That is, I don't have to answer it in public.
So who will you answer it to?
The case is in Supreme Court. If Supreme Court calls me, I will answer there.
Okay. And has the CBI contacted you on any of these loan...
Find out from CBI.
Sir, but did Vijay Mallya ever pressurize you, sir, when you were the chairman?
No.
Because in a letter to the then Finance Minister P. Chidambaram...
I am disconnecting this call. I would not like to talk on this.
Okay, that's your choice. Thank you. Once again, Pradeep Chaudhary hangs up the phone on Times Now, because it's the questions on Vijay Mallya that we wanted to ask him if he was ever pressurized. He says he'll answer only to the Supreme Court of India.
Well, Pradeep Chaudhary is an important man in this fast-turning wheel of events, because he's the individual who would have actually taken the decision of accommodating Mr. Mallya's requests. And you heard he was very taciturn. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back. We'll come back and assess whether there is criminality, be on whose part. Don't go away. Welcome back. Did UPA big guns break the law in assisting Mr. Mallya? That's the question we are posing on India Upfront on the back of a continuous investigation. Arun Kumar Singh, former executive assistant of Kingfisher Airlines, with us. Arun Kumar Singh, your response to that question.
Hi Rahul, good evening. First of all, congratulations on the new assignment. Rahul, it's slightly, discomforting the way this has quickly escalated from a business discussion about a business failure to unpaid debts to unpaid salary, and now it's become a political heavyweight boxing match. Obviously, with the elections around the corner, it's got something to do with UPA and NDA. I mean, in my limited capacity is what I can see. I mean, I don't even know whether it's the right platform for people like me and Sanjay Bahadur to be in, with serious political discussion going on. That's number one. Number two is, that's the bigger point. I'm sorry?
No, let's get to the point. I asked you a straight question. Did UPA big guns break the law?
No, I don't. I'm not a legal expert. Mr. Jethmalani is, and Mr. Tulsi is, and Mr. Sanjay Hegde knows the law very well. I'm not, but in my limited capacity, I don't see anything wrong in an industrialist. Forget about Dr. Mallya or Kingfisher Airline. Any businessman going to the government of the day and asking for the policies to be reviewed or revisited or revised. I mean, I have a letter in my hand which I will tell you the contents of, which has got nothing to do with Kingfisher but another carrier. I mean, companies do it all the time. I mean, Tim Cook came to India, he went and met the chief minister of a couple of states and asked them for the support. I mean, what do we call it? Crony capitalism, or what do we term it? This is the help that industrialists need from the government of the day, and there is nothing wrong. There will be something wrong if the industrialists do not talk to the government. Then there is a serious problem.
Is Tim Cook broke? Is his company broke? That's the fundamental question. Is his company broke? Is he broke?
No, let's not.
Is he defaulting on loans? Is he defaulting on money that is owed to the public? See, look, I mean, let's put this in the right context. I appreciate the fact that as a loyal ex-employee, you know, you feel the necessity to today stand shoulder to shoulder, wing to wing.
He doesn't pay me. He doesn't put food on my table.
With Mr. Mallya. But the fact is,
Rahul, I'm sorry,
let's ask ourselves the deeper questions.
I don't want to speak over you, but No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak over you, Rahul, but every time I come on on some TV show, I have to somehow make it clear, just because my views are different than the populist view, it doesn't mean that Vijay Mallya is putting food on my table, for heaven's sake. No, that's not the case. There is no loyalty. I'm just putting facts across.
Let me quickly just go around the panel. Okay, fair enough. So you don't believe there's anything. Let me just go around let's just once quickly go around the table. I've heard you out. Mr. Jethmalani, in 3 lines. Criminal Act, yes, no.
Yes, especially Mr. Chidambaram's, Mr. Mallya's letter recording what Mr. Chidambaram did in the matter of rebuking PMA of SBI.
Okay, Mr. Tulsi, do you agree, disagree?
Completely disagree. This is the job of the government to ensure that public interest is protected, and the loans, if they can be rescheduled, and they save the companies from going under. This is something which is done, and I can tell you what the problem with BJP is, that Dr. Manmohan Singh has the most sterling reputation amongst all politicians, including the present dispensation.
Okay, well, let's not. I don't want to become a forum for giving certificates either of innocence or of conviction. So, being upfront, there is a debate raging around a set of circumstances.
You are definitely giving some certificates.
Okay. I'm not actually. I was hoping to have a nice strident debate from 2 differing sides, and I think we have given enough space to both sides. The fact is, coming back to upfront, the position that we have taken here as a channel is to try and bring out the connections. Whether they amount to criminality or not is, of course, for the courts to decide. The matter is before court. Let's not forget that. You've heard both sides. I leave it to the viewers actually to decide. We leave it in the people's court. We leave it at that.